Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything Arsenal. We are back again with Cozy for another podcast. A lot to discuss. The latest on Nico Williams is scheduled to meet Arsenal this week, according to News and Ticks. We'll be discussing that one. Our midfield situation. Could Partey still end up leaving? The latest on Mikel Merino and also Bruno Guimaraes. Could Bruno Guimaraes be the replacement for Partey? Is Merino a sufficient replacement for Partey? We'll be discussing that as well. And a couple of other transfer news. But first, Cozy, how are you?
I'm perfect. I'm really, really good. How are you guys doing? I'm one of the people who have to say that the window has been a little bit slow, but I'm still going to say lots coming up, lots to be expected, and I'm very, very optimistic.
Yeah, so let's start with Nico Williams. Now, today, it has been reported that by News and Ticks that Nico Williams is scheduled to meet Arsenal this week. So he said, I spoke to someone at the club who reiterated we absolutely love him and we'll take a chance if we get it. I've heard rumors Arsenal are due to speak to Nico Williams this week. Now, we've already said, we talked about Nico Williams on Cause's live stream yesterday. Make sure to check it out. And we discussed a lot on Nico Williams, and it's very difficult. This is one that I don't feel very confident about happening because of a lot of different reasons. But if Arsenal is scheduled to meet him this week, Fabrizio reported 3 weeks ago that Arsenal had spoken to his agents and met up with his agents, but obviously the players that they use. But it looks like Arsenal will hold talks with him this week. Would you be going all in for him? Do you think this is a deal that can happen? Let's go in all in for him and let's try and convince him this week, or do you think we'll be wasting our time?
All in for him, absolutely not. I think there is a lot of stuff going on in this deal. Even if it's not even just Barcelona, I think there is a lot of things for you to get over in order for you to sign Nico Williams. Starting with the player himself, then Atletico Bilbao, and then FC Barcelona. I would say that Arsenal should be there. I would be there if I was the one trying to get this deal done. I wouldn't 100% go. I'm going to get him tooth and nail, because you could fight tooth and nail and then you don't get the deal done. So I would say at the moment, what Arsenal have to do is to try and kind of replicate the steps that Barcelona have taken. And maybe we pray that there's that one final step, or maybe those 2 final steps that FC Barcelona failed to do, FC Barcelona failed to accomplish, and maybe Arsenal are in good conditions to accomplish those steps. So the reason as to why I wouldn't go all in for Nico Williams, and I know this sounds crazy to a player that I said he's a market opportunity, he's a bargain, go and get him, once in a lifetime, talent. I think he's all that. I still believe in his talent. I still believe in his ceiling. I just think that this deal is one of those deals that remind me of the complicated deals we used to do, or we used to try to do under Arsene Wenger, and eventually we did get them done. I'm looking at a deal like, for example, a Karim Benzema back in the day, and then I look at Nico Williams right now, and I'm like, this is a replica of these deals. This is a replica of, he doesn't want you as priority, but he will consider you if his primary destination doesn't actually come in. And then you think about the release clause. Yes, you could trigger the release clause, but it has to be paid in one installment. Again, these days, with the PSR changes that have been introduced to make sure that clubs are profitable, I don't think that it's wise for you to pay 58 million euros at once. The likes of Manchester United are paying 40 million euros for Lenny Euro across 4 years. I think that's a very, very good business idea. I think it's a complicated deal. It's a very, very complex deal. So I would say Arsenal should be there. They should watch the space, but not 100% say, if we don't get Nico Williams, our transfer plan is shattered. That would be kind of weak.
Yeah, so Chinese and Texas said we could discuss it with the player this week. It's going to be interesting to see what you're going to tell him. Barcelona could still be in for him. Liverpool have been mentioned before. Chelsea have been mentioned before. But for me, my worry is usually Man City and Real Madrid. And in this case, in this scenario, Barcelona. For Juventus these days, AC Milan, United, Chelsea, I'm like, no, if they want the player and we want the player as well, we can get the player. I mean, we got the likes of Declan Rice ahead of Man City last season, but there's always that Guardiola factor and there's always that Real Madrid big team factor. So players would usually prefer playing for those teams. And Nico Williams would probably prefer for Barcelona. But I just did a video and I talked about it and I said, We don't know. That is just assuming. I'm just assuming you'd want to join Barcelona. I'm not sure. Maybe you'd want, maybe he's always dreamed to play in the Premier League. Maybe loves playing under Arteta. You'd want to play under Arteta. Maybe you'd want to play next to Odegaard. Who knows? It depends. But this would be a good deal in terms of signing him. All of us would definitely take him to Arsenal if you're given the chance. I actually think he's worth more than that money. Do you think he's worth more than that money? Like, if he didn't have a release clause after those performances at the Euros, he would be like 90 million right now.
Yeah, I mean, definitely he's worth more than that. He's worth more than that. I don't know why, when he signed a new deal in December, why Atletico Bilbao didn't actually try to increase the release clause. Maybe because they wanted their money at once, and they said, instead of 70 million across 7 years, we're going to take 58 million euros across a period of 1 year. So probably that's the reason. But it's definitely worth more. If the likes of Ricardo Calafiori are 50 million euros, a guy that has just sprung up, a guy that last appeared at the Euros in the group stages, is 58 million euros, courtesy of the Euros tax, then Williams, I don't know. I think it's double that. And we've seen the market prices. We have seen how much players are going for these days. Kylian Mbappe, you cannot even put a price tag around him. Neymar is 200 million. Ronaldo, when he went to Madrid, that was like 80 million. Pogba, Declan Rice, Caicedo. The market has become really crazy. So with Nico Williams, I think anyone would agree, give them 70 million, give them 80 million, anyone would agree. The problem with that deal and the problem with the structuring of that money is that if you can pay it for across a period of 5 years, then that is very, very good. But if you're just going to pay it in one installment, I think financially it has very, very bitter repercussions.
Right. Now, we know that in terms of a winger, Ghana Blog reported that if Arsenal are going to sign a wide player, Nico Williams is the preference and he would be the priority. Now, is it a case of if we don't sign Nico Williams, we don't reckon you're going to get another winger? Because that is how I feel. I feel like if you don't get Nico Williams, I don't think you're going to get a winger. I think we're going to use other players. But I'm thinking right now, I actually just remembered the Brazilian players are also not back. Martinelli is not here. Trossard is not here. Saka is not here. We don't have any wingers at Arsenal at the moment. And Nelson could leave. So we literally have no one to play those winger positions. We might have to use Vieira and Jesus and those kind of players. Now, do you think if we don't get Nico Williams, we're not going to get any wingers at all? Or do you think they're going to go for a cheaper winger?
I think the idea, as reported by The Athletic 3 weeks ago, was for Arsenal to try on Nico Williams. If they can get him, well and good. If they cannot get him, they go and try to sign Pedro Neto. And when I heard about Pedro Neto, that's when I knew that if we don't get Nico Williams, we're not going to sign anyone else. We're not going to bring in any other player. Because with Neto and his injury record, and Wolves saying they want 60 million, Neto at the moment is more expensive than Nico Williams. You can imagine that. They're asking for 15 million pounds more than what you'd pay for Nico Williams. That deal is never going to happen. So I think I also feel it. I think if Arsenal don't get anyone, Mikel is going to look into his squad and say Martinelli and Trossard, Jesus and Saka for now in wide areas. I'm a little bit covered. Of course, he's used Fabio Vieira there before, and it has worked actually very, very well. So I think he's going to be convinced. And I also think that at the moment, he's not under pressure. He's convinced that he's got enough cover across the forward line. So I think Nico Williams or bust. It's going to be one of those where you don't get him, you're linked with a couple of players, and then eventually you end up with none. You remember when we wanted Rafinha and Arsenal made a bid for Rafinha, personal terms were in place as well. Leeds accepted the bid and they said, if Barca don't take him, we are absolutely going to be the club that you're going to be the club that takes him. Chelsea were out of the race by then. And then we waited until Rafinha went to Barcelona. Towards the end of the window, we turned to Pedro Neto. I think we were valuing him at 50 million, made a bid at around 50 million. It was turned down, and we never got him. Ever since then, we didn't get a winger. Even last summer, we thought, well, this is the summer where we get a winger. Were we linked with wingers? We were absolutely linked with wingers. Kudus could have come in among the deadline days. He didn't. So for me, this summer, it's going to be kind of a continuation, a pattern. I don't see how we sign a winger if it's not Nico Williams.
Last one. If you sign a winger, if you sign Nico Williams and don't sign a striker, would you be satisfied? Because I think that is going to be the case. If we sign Nico Williams, I don't think we splash more money in a striker. Or if we do sign a striker, it's going to be like a £20 million striker. Would you be satisfied with that? Would you be willing to say, nah, forget about Nico Williams, get me a striker?
The thing is with Mikel right now, I think him and Nagelsmann, none of them can drop Havertz. I think for Arsenal right now, we are going to see Kai Havertz play the next 38 Premier League games as striker if he comes back early from his rest from the international team. And it would be a waste of time for Arsenal to bring in a striker that doesn't 100% blow our standards out of the water. So if it's not Gyökeres or Osimhen or Lautaro Martinez at the moment, don't give me anyone. It's okay. Don't give me anyone, because we're just going to bring in a guy that Mikel is going to sit on the bench and just keep him there. Just a guy that is going to be in the shadow of Kai Havertz. So yes, I would say give me Nico Williams. Massive upgrade on the left-hand side. Massive upgrade in terms of backing up Bukayo Saka. I think we would be in a much better position than Reece Nelson or Fabio Vieira. So I think I can see his impact being bigger than a striker who comes in and plays 10 games or 15 games coming off the bench because Kai Havertz is starting. I don't think Mikel is going to, put his £65 million signing on the bench. However, if the scenario was that we get a serious striker on Nico Williams, I would go with a serious striker. I would definitely go with a serious striker. I think this Arsenal team just needs a player to crack the code in some games that are encrypted. Like there's some games that you play and you're like, if we had a guy that could crack the code, we could do it better. And teams are also becoming better, Glenn. Yes, Man United have signed a guy that none of us know much about, but Lenny Yoro is highly rated, and they were looking at Manchester Elite, and as well they have Lisandro Martinez, who was, defender of the tournament at the Copa America that has just concluded. And again, you look at other teams and how they're organizing themselves. I don't think it's getting easier. It's actually getting harder. So eventually, you might need to have that big center forward that can nick 1-0 or get you a 2-1 advantage, the way we had the likes of Van Persie, the way we had the likes of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. So I'm going to say, if it's a good center forward, level raiser, give me a center forward, don't give me Nico Williams. But if it's this backup guys for Mikel Arteta, 20 years, 22, Benjamin Sesko, no, don't give me a striker. I can do with what I have. Let's go with Nico Williams.
I think by the end of the week, we'll know what the situation is with Nico Williams before Arsenal travel to the USA. And since we're in the striker conversation, let's bring up Nketiah. According to reports, Olympique Marseille have made Nketiah their priority in attack. The French club are confident of making a deal happen, even with Arsenal's significant demands. Now, I think they've already signed Greenwood. Looking like they want Nketiah and Greenwood partnership over there. I think they could end up keeping Aubameyang. I'm not sure. That will be an interesting three of them together. That will be interesting. So Nketiah, we know that he's probably going to leave. I think it's looking very likely that he's going to leave. Now, Arsenal are demanding around 30 million, 32 million, around there. Would you make it like the Smith Rowe one? Because Smith Rowe have been given an offer of 30 million. We've said no, we're not going to take 30 million until you give us 40 million plus some bonuses and add-ons and maybe a sell-on clause or buyback clause, whatever it is. We had that Arsenal not satisfied at all with the offer that was made by Fulham. Would you be doing the same with Nketiah? Would you be like, no, if you're not paying what we want, including bonuses and add-ons, we're not going to give it to you? Or do you think this is one that you should just do quickly and compromise and be like, nah, this is a player who needs to move on? Okay, 27 million, fine, you can have it.
No. Despite the fact that I don't rate him as a quality member of the squad, I think that in terms of value, he's one of the players that Arsenal have stored good value in. Now, for Eddie, why I actually like the idea of Arsenal having him at the moment is that we can sell him to clubs that really need homegrown players. And we know how much English players go for. We know how much, somehow, we don't know how negotiations go, but I'm guessing they go like this. Hey, have an English player, 30 million. And then the other club goes, we'll give you 25. and then this club says he's English. With English players, at some point in time, this need to be investigated. It's either, I don't know how it goes down. So I think with Nketiah, Arsenal have a massive advantage of raising capital this summer. The same with Emile Smith Rowe, the same with Reece Nelson. I'm going to tell you this. If Nketiah, with his poor performances across an elongated period of time for Arsenal, if he was Portuguese or Albanian or Romanian, this guy would be going for 8 million. I'm not lying. And it's the truth. This guy would be going for 8 million to 15 million euros, right? Look at the likes of Albert Sambilokonga, 12 million euros. You cannot even complain about it. We are celebrating 8 million for Nuno Tavares. So Nketiah is value well stored for Arsenal. There's so many clubs that will want him. I think Marseille are in position to sign him. They will be in position to sign him for some good money, 30 million and above. But even if they don't, I think West Ham will look at him. I think Crystal Palace will genuinely look at him. Yes, Fulham will look at him as well. There is a lot of value. So this is one way I would be like, yeah.
What you just said about if he was from a different country, it would have been cheaper. Some people would argue if you're signing him from a Benfica or Ajax, it would be 60 million.
Okay. I think at his stage, he would be a 60 million pound player if I would say 5 years ago, that kid that Arsene Wenger had brought onto the scene, and everybody's like, "Wow, Arsenal have an array of kids." There is this guy called Nketiah. He scores goals, and the number of goals he scored for the England under 23, 21, under 19 setups, that would have cost like 50, 60 million. But right now, that's the thing with such players. How much do you sign Darwin Núñez for? Yes, he was 80 million at Benfica. Is it still 80 million? No. Is it still 60 million? Yeah. No. Right. So that's the thing. Their price, their value drops very quickly. With English players, their value is there because they can play in the Premier League, and the fact that they are homegrown, there is a lot of value on them. So I would say with Eddie, regardless of what happens, this is a transfer that Arsenal must make 30 million and to 35, and there's no excuse. So what you do, you don't chase away clubs in terms of overpricing or making it difficult in negotiations. But what you do, any offers that are brought in, treat them with respect and try to guide them into that zone where they can pay 35 to 40 million. I think we'll get the money.
Okay, that's going to be an interesting one. I must have made him the priority. Would the player want to move on abroad, or do you want to be in England? What do you reckon? Do you think the player would want to move on abroad, or do you prefer to go to like a Crystal Palace or a Fulham or a Wolves or something like that? Or do you think it would be better for him, a new challenge, or do you prefer him being in England?
I think his priority will be to stay in the Premier League. I think many English players feel comfortable at home. His priority will be, can I get a Premier League team? Can I get a team that is going to give me enough time, but also allow me to compete with the likes of, to play against the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, Man United. But also recently, we have seen a lot of talent go out of England, and they're English. Something that we're not used to, by the way. But recently we have seen the likes of Jude Bellingham, Jadon Sancho, Noni Madueke, all those guys going out of England, going out of the Premier League, and then going out there, making a name, and then coming back. And with Roberto Di Zerbi being there, a manager, I think this is a deal that's going to depend a lot between the conversation between Di Zerbi and Eddie Nketiah. Di Zerbi as manager, he understands the player. He loves him. He understands him. And I think that would be a very key part of Eddie Nketiah's decision-making process. He's been at Arsenal, and he's been under a manager that loved him. Although he's not played him to the levels that he would have wanted to, but at least that he feels he's loved and appreciated by Mikel Arteta. I think with Di Zerbi, that's the same thing, right? When a manager gets a new job from Brighton, and he tried to sign you at Brighton, and then he goes to a new club like Marseille, he's got a lot of options. He can go back to Brighton and try to sign Duncan Ferguson. He could go and try to sign Joao Pedro from there, or Dennis Undav. But he's decided that he's going to go and try to sign you again. There's a lot of trust there. There's a lot of, I think, emotion there. And it goes back to what I've said, trust. So I think If De Zerbi can convince him to go to Marseille, he will go. But Marseille have to be quick, otherwise Premier League teams are also going to try to sign him.
Yeah, let's see how that one goes. He's not the only Highland boy who could end up leaving. I don't know if he's going to end up leaving before Arsenal travel to USA, but let's see. Another one is Emile Smith Rowe. So we've talked about Smith Rowe a lot of times, but we haven't spoken about him since the bid was made. There was a 30 million bid. Team News and Tick says Fulham are thought to be preparing a second bid. However, it will have a significant improvement on their first bid, which it will have to be a significant improvement, as the first bid was described as horrendous, Cozy. Horrendous. Like the first bid was described as horrendous, and it was a 30 million bid. So we're probably looking for 40 million, maybe more. Now, the question I had for you, not really in terms of the transfer, in terms of what Arsenal would do and anything, what you would do. Like, yes, you're probably going to sell him. We probably know that by now. But the bonuses and the add-ons and the sell-on clause, the buyback clause, which one would you be including in the contract? A sell-on clause, 30%. If he goes there, he does incredibly well, and they sell him for 100 million, you get 30 million from that. Or would you have a buyback clause because you still see a future in Smith Rowe somewhere in the future? You're like, okay, if he becomes good at Fulham, he becomes absolutely unstoppable. The next 2 seasons, he scores 20 goals and gets 15 assists or something. You want to buy him back, have the first option of buying him back. What would you want to include?
Buyback clauses at Arsenal, they've never been good. And I even don't understand how in the past, when we made a lot of good financial decisions, how we were onto buyback clauses instead of sell-on clauses. I think with buyback clauses, they have a problem. You can look at a player, he does well, he goes to Fulham maybe, scores 20 goals and 15 assists like Cole Palmer. And then you're like, but do we really need him? And you actually don't need him. And you look at your system, McNally's on fire, Saka is on fire, Kai Havertz is doing well, Odegaard and Vieira also doing well, Rice and maybe Jorginho are doing well, and maybe you brought in a Mikel Merino, who is also on fire. And you're like, yes, we have the option to sign him, we have the option to buy him back, but at the moment, we honestly don't need him. And that means that he goes on to another club, you get nothing, you let him go to another club, and your buyback clause expires. So I think, for me, it would be a sell-on clause. They are the ones that I really appreciate. They're the ones that I think have a lot of value. With Emile Smith Rowe, you're actually very right. Arsenal must have a sell-on clause in this guy's contract. Like, imagine if Man City don't have a sell-on clause in Cole Palmer's contract, and Chelsea decide to sell Cole Palmer right now, how much could they get? Like, they could even get like 80 million for Cole Palmer, and that's an instant 40 million profit. So I think with ESR, we're going to see Arsenal selling for 35 million. I'm locked there, and we're going to see Fulham at some point in time sell this guy at around 65 million or even 70 million, because I'm looking at him and I'm like, why have you failed at Arsenal? You have not failed at Arsenal, first and foremost. Secondly, injuries have been a problem for you. Thirdly, I think you're no longer in that group of players, that small group of players that the manager trusts. When I combine all that, I'm like, I think all these in a different setting, they can be overcome. You can overcome injuries. You can become a manager's favorite player, and you can also be a manager's trusted player. And you can play more minutes, and you can increase your market value. So with Emile Smith Rowe, other than Nketiah, with Nketiah, I could let him go without a sell-on clause. It's okay. He can go, because I don't think he turns into an Ivan Toney. I don't think he even turns into a Jamie Vardy in the future. But with Emile Smith Rowe, there is a possibility that we might see him turn into a Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish signed for Man City at what age? 26, 27, around there?
Yeah, around there.
Around there.
Maybe young, maybe slightly young.
Maybe. At 26 years of age, because ESR is around 23, 24, at 26, 27, he will be in his prime. This England national team are also going to be in their prime. He goes and wins the Euros with England. His price shoots up in the air. You've got to have a sell-on clause there. You've got to have a 25% or 20% of whatever Fulham are going to make after they actually sell him.
I agree. A sell-on clause is very important. We rejected the 30 million plus bonuses. 2 days ago. Do you think we are stupid to reject that fee? Do you think we should be accepting that 30 million and not asking for 40, 45 million? We should be accepting that 30 million because of the injuries and the lack of game time the last 2 years. Do you think you're being a bit greedy, or do you think you're doing well? Because for me, I feel like we are not getting bullied in the transfer market anymore. I love this. I love the fact that, we're not allowing players to leave for 10 million. If Smith Rowe leaves for more than 35 million, it's our record sale of all time, which is absolutely crazy. So I think we don't get bullied in the transfer window, in the transfer market. Sell players as much as you can for as much as you can. And Smith Rowe for me is a player that we didn't really have to sell. So if you can get a significant amount of money, then that's when we can sell him. But do you think we are stupid to reject the 30 million, especially from teams like Fulham, who we don't expect to get to 50 million or something like that?
Not stupid actually. It's a very. I'm surprised as well that Fulham started at 30 million, but I think it's the structuring of that deal that didn't entice Arsenal in any way, shape, or form, because they could say we want to pay you 30 million, but only 15 of that is going to be upfront, or only maybe 19 of that is going to be upfront. The rest is going to be bonuses and add-ons. And then they might also say that we're going to pay this money across 6 years. And Arsenal, like, we are not even interested in this kind of in what you're saying. But I think it's good that we have a guy or a club that is willing to bid 30 million for Emile Smith Rowe. That's a positive. The second thing now we have to do, I think what Fulham have done is they have thrown the ball into our court. So we've got now to set the conditions straight for us to be able to harvest and reap more than 35 million on this deal. We've got to be able to set the conditions. And the conditions are, can we now get other clubs on the table? Can we get a couple of clubs to, can we try to sell him to a couple of clubs and see? Maybe Crystal Palace, maybe Fulham is there, Crystal Palace, West Ham, Aston Villa, right? Few clubs that have been interested in, Newcastle as well. Can we get some other clubs onto the table? Because what Fulham know is that at the moment, we are the guys that have bid. We are the only guys that have made the bid. There's something that Sassuolo did to Arsenal to Juventus a couple of years ago. They used Arsenal as a Premier League team that had agreed personal terms and had bid very highly for Manuel Locatelli. And Juventus increased their bid 3 times without Arsenal ever bidding. It was revealed after that, well, Arsenal never put in a bid. We are sorry. We used you, but yeah, you never put in a bid. So I think that's what Arsenal need to do, is that genius, those tactics that we need to employ now. But at the moment, I think we've done well. Yes, it's tempting. 30 million is tempting. But you can get an extra 5. You can get more money up front. You know that the structuring of the deal could be much better. So I think that is to show whoever is out there in the market for Emile Smith Rowe that yes, Arsenal are not desperate. And if you think that 30 million is enough, you've got to rethink your decision.
Right. Now, let's speak about the midfield situation, the rest of the midfield. That is Thomas Partey's situation, Mikel Merino, and also Bruno Guimaraes, who's been also some news about him from Team News and Tick. So let's start with what we are planning in terms of the midfield. This has come out today. Arsenal are keen to strengthen central midfield if the opportunity arises. They have closely followed João Neves as well as Mikel Merino and Martin Zubimendi. The current thinking is that a significant midfield arrival may require Thomas Partey to be sold. This is according to the Ghana blog. Now, as I've always said since before the transfer window opened, for me, midfield is the priority. I want us to get a midfielder. If you have to replace Thomas Partey, I don't think there's too many names who are there for me, apart from maybe Kimmich or Bruno Guimaraes. Even if you were to get Douglas Luiz, a couple of weeks ago, I'd have said, I still need Partey to stay. Even if you have to get João Neves because of his age and experience, I still say I want Thomas Partey to stay. Even if to get players like Onana, I'm still like, no, Partey's controlling midfield, because yes, he's not always available, but the control that Partey and Jorginho give you, it's a lot. It's a lot. Like, they can pick up the ball from the defense and the goalkeeper and, control the ball, keep possession. They'll know when to, drive a bit and, basically like contribute the passes and all that, and they know how to stick to that position. But you'll never really see Partey on the left wing or Partey driving to the right wing. You'll never really see that. But if you have Declan Rice there, you'd want to go for it and do something. So you might see him on the left wing or on the right wing and stuff like that. So for me, I need a midfielder who's just going to sit there. So even if Partey is available for 20-25 games, I just need a midfielder who's going to sit there. Now, they've said Partey could be sold if we get a significant midfield arrival. Now, Do you think Merino is a significant midfield arrival? Because for me, I see him as an addition, not a replacement. Do you think they're seeing Merino as a significant arrival, like bring Merino, sell Partey?
Yeah, I think Mikel does look at him in that way. Personally, I don't look at him in that way. I don't look at him as a significant addition to the squad, but I look at him as a necessary opportunity that you can grab on the market. And with all due respect, he's a very good player. Like, he's so much better on the ball than Granit Xhaka was, and physically he reminds me of Granit Xhaka. But I think what Mikel has to look into here is he going to completely change the way we approach games? Because that is a possibility. And I think that's something that Arsenal fans need to look into as we look into Merino, Guimaraes, and Partey. Is Mikel Arteta going to sign someone that's going to allow him play the same way? For example, Guimaraes allows you to play in the same way. Douglas Luiz would allow you to play in the same way with Partey in mind. However, if you bring in a player like Mikel Merino alongside Declan Rice and alongside Odegaard, that means that you're going to tactically change it. We're going to see something very different. We're going to see kind of a Barcelona under Pep with Busquets, Xavi, and Iniesta. None of them is too physical. None of them is too is too I would say defensive, but they're so good on the ball. But what we might see at Arsenal is two now very, very defensive players and two very physical players in midfield. So he might actually change it up. And if he's looking to change it up, then Mikel Merino is a significant part of what he wants to do. But if we're going to play in the same way, if we're going to try to have a single pivot like Partey has done it, I don't think Mikel Merino is a significant addition to the squad. I don't think Mikel Merino is a big signing in that regard. So I think Mikel has it in mind that I have this guy, he's coming in, he's going to give me the physicality that I was looking for in Kai Havertz to replace Xhaka. That didn't work. Now I have Mikel Merino. He can replace Xhaka very well. I can go back and revert to the other double pivot I was playing between Partey and Xhaka, and it's going to work with Declan Rice, and Mikel Merino. The thing with Mikel Merino, and why I think he might be a much better player alongside Declan Rice, especially with Rice in the six, is that Merino is so good on the ball, like very, very, very good on the ball. If you've seen him for Spain, if you've seen his highlights for Sociedad, he's a guy that really can pass the ball to any destination that he wants as long as he wants to. That is his ability on the ball. He really doesn't care where he is on the pitch, where the player he wants to find is on the pitch. He'll find him because he knows I've got that ability. I will find you. Just be in that position. I will find you. So I think Mikel Arteta signs Mikel Merino, and we see a significant change in the tactics.
Now, for me, I think it would be a good addition to the team. I'd rather have Merino, coming on than El Neni, for example. So I think in terms of quality, I think he brings more quality to the team, and maybe not as a starter, but you could actually end up being a starter. I think he's still a good player. But in terms of additional options and extra option for that kind of price, I would take him. Now, this is the latest news on Merino. Arsenal are plotting a move for Sociedad's Mikel Merino. Arsenal's interest in the player predates the start of the Euro 2024. This is according to Sam Dean, and we were told why we are trying to get him. Arsenal wants a central midfielder, and one player of interest is Merino. Mikel is an admirer of his talent and physicality. Merino turned 28 in June, which would place him outside of Arsenal's typical recruitment profile. The relative youth of the squad, however, means they can add experienced players when required, as they did with Jorginho and Trossard. Once again, we broke down the Jorginho and Trossard thing on because it's live stream yesterday. Make sure to check it out, and we discussed it and why would Merino wouldn't be a bad signing because of his age. No, I think the age is would be perfect for us. No problem with signing a couple of experienced players. Now, but before we go to Guimaraes, Partey. Do you still feel like Partey is going to leave? Do you still have this feeling going like Partey is going to leave? Like you've already in your head, you're like Partey is not going to be an Arsenal player next season at all. He's back in training. For me, I'm thinking he could be, but he could stay. First of all, Jorginho and Rice are not here as of now, so he's the only midfielder that we have. So maybe if we see him leave, it's going to be after the USA preseason tour or something. Now, how do you see Partey? Do you think he's going to stay or do you think he's going to leave right as of now?
I still see him as a player that's going to leave Arsenal this summer, and I
Mm.
think many people still when people saw that smile and that hug between him and Mikel Arteta, they're like, he's staying. I saw someone on Twitter say, "Oh, by the way, this is the party they're saying that he's going to go. He's very very happy at Arsenal." I don't think players leave a club because they're necessarily unhappy or they're necessarily useless. At times, conditions demand or dictate some circumstances. He's earning high wages. You have a player like Merino coming in, lower wages. You just don't want to crowd up wages in that area. Partey can leave as long as he's no longer as reliable as he actually was. So I still think that he will leave, and I think that's going to be down to the tactical changes that Mikel Arteta might actually try out. Now, I don't see him leave before Arsenal get a player in midfield, and I don't see him leave before Mikel Arteta can trust the new changes. What if it doesn't work? I think there is that mentality. What if it doesn't work? And last season, one of the things that actually helped us is we tried to change it out, Partey playing at right back, and then a few changes that didn't actually look very good, especially with Timber out injured. And Mikel Arteta slowly but surely reverted to what we were doing the previous season, although we didn't have Granit Xhaka anymore, and it kind of saved our season until until post Dubai, when the team went regrouped and we found something different to do to do. So I'm gonna say Partey, yeah, he leaves, but it's going to be because someone has come in and Mikel Arteta has looked at them and is like, after this preseason, after these games, after looking at you, yeah, I can now let go of Thomas Partey.
Now, I think Partey would be happy to stay at Arsenal for one more season. I think Arsenal would like to keep him for one more season. It will mean he lives on a free next season for sure. But I think it's a case of if we get enough money for him, then we'll sell him. I think it's a case of that. So those are the two questions. The first one is, how much do you think Partey is worth and how much should you be happy with? And do you think if you get like 25 million, that's when they'll be like, oh, no, let him go?
25 million, unless they don't want to sell. I don't think an offer for 25 million is realistic for Thomas Partey. Cannot lie. I think the Saudi Arabian market has also changed. They were offering just 30 million for Ederson, and I'm like, okay, they have changed. They are no longer offering crazy money like they did to offer to Chelsea for Koulibaly and the others. So I would say happy 20 million. Satisfied 15 million. So 15 I would be satisfied, but to make me happy 20 million would really make me happy. But I think we are really looking at a player whose good days in terms of playing game in game out are actually behind him. So anyone who comes in with an offer between 15 to 20 million, that's a good offer for Arsenal.
Do you think it's bright to keep him for one more season until his contract expires, or do you think that is bad business? You should be trying to get at least 15 million.
Well, I mean, listen. We are going into a season that is demanding us to win. This season, we either win or we don't, right? And it's going to make bigger headlines if Arsenal don't win any trophy than if Arsenal win a big trophy. If we win the Champions League, they're like, have they been building? But if you don't win anything, they're like, this is a group of failures that they're built together for half a decade. So I'm going to say Partey's influence on the dressing room and also on the pitch is immense, right?
It's worth it.
If you cannot replace him, don't lose him. So if you're bringing in Onana, if you're bringing in Joao Neves, if you're bringing in guys from the Italian Serie A that you're not even sure they can give you that quality, don't touch him. But if you're sure that you're bringing in a guy like Bruno G that can replace him, and we feel solid and we're still solid, you can let him go.
Set me up perfectly for that one. Speaking of Bruno G, that is Bruno Guimaraes. Tinies and Tick said a couple of days ago, it wouldn't surprise me if Arsenal went back in for Bruno Guimaraes later in the window. Now, I don't think there's too many players who can replace Partey. How many do you think can replace Partey in your head? Like, how many players midfields are you looking at? Like, this one. Kimmich, we've talked about him before.
Yeah,
Bruno Guimaraes, you think he can successfully replace Partey?
Bruno and Kimmich.
Is there any other? No others.
Yeah.
So we could still make a bid for Bruno Guimaraes, but just like the Nico Williams situation, the Bruno Guimaraes one, I'm like, Newcastle, would they really want to sell Bruno Guimaraes? Bruno Guimaraes himself, would he really want to leave Newcastle? I mean, the last couple of years, he's shown that he's been really already a Newcastle boy, and the fact that obviously he's been playing at the Euros is not yet, not used Copa America is not yet available for his team. Are we going to really wait for him and then sign him after the USA tour? Is he a good replacement? Is he worth the money you're going to pay for him? All that. Now, how much do you think Bruno Guimaraes is worth?
Maximum 80 million, minimum 65 million.
So if they say today Arsenal 80 million plus a few bonuses here and there, it'd be like, forget everything else. Let's go and get Bruno Guimaraes.
I think he's the future. I think that project in the midfield will need a player you can bank on, and I think he's more talented than. I'm gonna say this is. I think he's a more bigger talent than Declan Rice. I also think that in terms of forming a partnership with Declan, that could go into like 6-7 years of quality partnership. The way we saw players like Michael Carrick in that Man United midfield for a long time. The way you saw players like have we had a long serving midfielder like Xhaka? Probably. I can see him like a Xhaka, like just there for years, and he plays 38 games a season and is just there. He's just available. So I would say for me, yeah, I'll drop anything. If there was one player I'm willing to go and splash all our money on this summer, it would be Bruno Guimaraes, because I know that there's a lot of fragility in our midfield defensive area, and we cannot afford that. I don't think any team that plays the way we play. We've looked at Spain, we've looked at Arsenal 2 seasons now, we've looked at Man City. There is no team that plays the way we play that has questions over their defensive midfielder, apart from Arsenal. If you're playing, parking the bus, yeah, you can have an in and out, DM, and that will be okay. If you're just playing on the transition, that's also okay. But for a team that's looking to build from the back, dominate possession, suffocate teams, recycle possession quickly, commit many players and many bodies forward, your DM is so important. So I think Bruno Guimaraes, that's where I'd be willing to sacrifice 82 million, and I'm like, it's worth it.
I would too, because midfield is my priority. The only concern I have about him is about this deal. One is the discipline in his game, and number two, how long this deal would take. I don't think this is a deal that you do at Newcastle within a couple of days. I don't think so. It would take so much time. So if again, putting you on the spot, if I told you now, Kosi, you're the one who's going to start out our midfield, what would you be trying to do right now? You've been given 100 million. Would you just need keep Partey, add an addition, couple of players in terms of 40 million, 30 million midfielders, add to that, or would you sell Partey, replace with Bruno Guimaraes? We are good to go. Forget about everything else.
Midfield, I think we still need to look into the Martin Odegaard role. He's played 2 top seasons very, very well, but he's using a lot of energy. So I think with 100 million, 100%, I would be going to Newcastle and giving them 80 million straight in. And with that 80 million, I'm sure I've covered Thomas Partey's position. Probably grab like 10, 15 million for Thomas Partey, add it to the 20 that I'm left with, around 35 million. And I'll be looking to go and get someone that has that versatility, but also someone that has got that arrogance on the ball to create like Odegaard. Because Odegaard is so hardworking, but what you admire about him is that arrogance, that he just doesn't care. He will play the ball into the half spaces and it will get to the destination he wants it to. So I think we lack that player in terms of squad depth. We just lack that player that, and I don't know, many teams don't have such a player. Like De Bruyne is one at Man City. David Bernardo in anyway. Fernandes is one one at Liverpool, at Man United. Odegaard is one at Arsenal. But I would just need that kind of arrogance. Fabio Vieira could, but I wouldn't bank on him. I really wouldn't bank on him.
If Vieira could do that for us, it could be such a big, almost a new signing.
Yeah, it would be almost like a new signing. So I think for me, Bruno G, and look for someone that has got that kind of arrogance. the player I would have liked would have been Ryan Sharkey. He's gonna go to Dortmund for around 20-25 million. I don't know if that's why I really miss Arsene Wenger now, because Ryan Sharkey is French. He's coming to Arsenal. Come on, like
Do you
100% coming to
do you
Arsenal.
consider almost that? Does almost fit that for you?
Yeah. Almost is perfectly that, but it's too expensive. 60 million euros.
Eze, does
Yeah.
it fit that for you? Too expensive as well?
Eze would fit. I think he's a little bit different from Odegaard in terms of his kind of a ball carrier more. He likes to take the ball into the penalty area more. He would score more goals than Odegaard in our system. But yeah, I wouldn't really mind it. But again, it's too expensive.
Too expensive. There's not too many teams that Paqueta would be that, but it's too expensive as well,
Yeah,
right?
too expensive. Maybe, yeah. Julian Brandt is one I would think of, but now he's been given the shirt number 10 at Dortmund. That shows that he's staying.
Yeah, so that's the latest on the midfield situation. It's going to be interesting to see how Arsenal sorts out that midfield. Very, very important. You can't go into next season without having a proper midfield. We're going to see how we do at the friendly matches, the preseason tour, because Jorginho is not yet back. He could be back for the USA tour. Rice is not yet back until August, so we're going to have a wide open gap there, and we're going to see that as an example of, if Rice and Jorginho are not there, this could actually happen. So we're going to have like a good picture at that. But thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. We will catch up with you on the next one.